City finally reached the Champions League final. Dortmund want Liverpool midfielder, Real Madrid and Atletico battle for a striker, Mourinho to return to Serie A, and a transfer roundup, all coming up on today's OneFootball Daily News. As I'm your host Angelina Kelly, let's get into it. First up, and yes, Manchester City have done it. They're in a Champions League final, finally. It was an amazing night as they beat PSG 2-0, 4-1 of course on aggregate, and like I say, it was a brilliant night of football and it signifies so much for this team. Every single area of the pitch looked sublime, from the defence that really has been bolstered recently by the arrival of Ruben Dias, the midfield and even the attack that were pressing from the front. But the MVP for me, it has been Phil Foden recently. He's been playing amazingly, but it's got to go to Riyad Mahrez. He has become Manchester City's #1 player when it comes to big games. He was absolutely phenomenal. Since his arrival from Leicester City, he hasn't really set the football pitch alight. He's not been that 100% standout player for Manchester City, but he's still been really consistent and really talented. But this season, he has completely flipped things on their head. Like I say, he was 100% their MVP, and in the Champions League, he has really proven himself. He's managed goals against PSG, a goal and an assist against Dortmund, an assist against Gladbach. Absolutely amazing, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to bring to this Champions League final. For PSG, they cannot blame it all on the fact that Kylian Mbappe was injured. Neymar was still on the pitch. He didn't really have that many amazing moments. I think maybe at the beginning of the second half he did look good. Then you've got Mauro Icardi. He just was not on form at all. Actually, Manchester City's goalkeeper Ederson had more touches than him, and to be honest, I think that Mauricio Pochettino, I wouldn't be surprised if he was asking the PSG players if he could get Edinson Cavani's number to see if maybe he could come back onto the pitch, because they really did miss a player like Cavani last night. And of course then there is Angel Di Maria. He really did let himself down with that red card after that petty kick on Fernandinho. He should really know better, and like I say, he definitely let the side down. Like I say, this is such a significant moment for Manchester City, 13 years after the takeover of the club, and they have done exactly what was in those blueprints from the beginning to get to a Champions League final. So many people can talk about the amount of money that has been pumped into Manchester City, but money doesn't solve everything. They've had the money, they've had the players, they've even brought in Pep Guardiola in 2016. None of this has guaranteed them a Champions League final. They have really had to work hard for this, and they do seriously deserve this. Guardiola has spoken about how his work over the last 4 or 5 years is finally making sense now that they're at this moment, and I 100% agree. You know, they've done it in true City fashion. It's been a bit of a rocky road in the Champions League, a bit of bad luck, and obviously bowing out to the likes of Monaco, Liverpool, Spurs, Lyon, etc. It has been the Achilles heel of the club, and to see them finally reach that destination that they have been wanting for so long is amazing, and it's such a shame that the fans can't be there to enjoy it. City's last win in Europe was the European Cup Winners' Cup back in 1970, and after 51 years to finally get to another final must be amazing. Of course, Chelsea or Real Madrid will be joining them in that final, and whichever team does end up progressing through, they're really going to have to pull something massive out of the bag if they want to beat this Manchester City team. And speaking of Manchester City winning the Champions League, I feel like I predicted this a couple of weeks ago. I did a video on 7 reasons why City will be winning this trophy, and you can check that out above my head now. Next up, and whilst we have been discussing who could be departing from Borussia Dortmund, we haven't talked about who could be arriving, and one player that has been mentioned is Liverpool midfielder Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. So according to reports in Spain, the club are eyeing a move for the player. Now, he did have 4 months of the season injured with Liverpool, but since the turn of the year, Jurgen Klopp hasn't really used him. He's actually only managed to make 14 appearances so far this season. Of course, Liverpool do have the likes of Thiago, Jordan Henderson and Jorginho Wijnaldum in those roles in central midfield as well. So a move away could be a good thing for Oxlade-Chamberlain. Reportedly, it's going to cost Dortmund around 20 million euros. Now, I'll be honest, Oxlade-Chamberlain isn't really a name that I would have paired with Dortmund, but if they do need reinforcements in that position, why not try and go for a player who definitely does have the talent? He does have a couple of injury issues from time to time, but still could be worth a purchase. You could argue that when you look at some of the players that Dortmund have in that specific role of central midfield, they are maybe on the younger side. Oxlade-Chamberlain is 28, so perhaps he could bring a little bit of experience to the side, and perhaps he would link up really well with the other England player that they have in midfield, of course Jude Bellingham, who has been absolutely phenomenal for the team. Of course, he's not going to be a replacement replacement for the likes of Erling Haaland or Jadon Sancho if they do depart from the club, but like I say, could be a good option for squad depth. Whereas for Liverpool, if they do end up losing both Oxlade-Chamberlain and Georginio Wijnaldum, who has been linked with a move away to Barcelona, then it looks like a central midfielder is going to be another player that is on the transfer list for Jurgen Klopp. Now heading over to Spain, and it looks like Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid are both doing battle to try and get the signature of Eintracht Frankfurt striker Andre Silva, and apparently so far in the race, it actually looks like Atletico Madrid are winning. According to a report from a German journalist, Atletico Madrid are in advanced talks with the player, who has seriously come such a long way from those rocky spells that he had at AC Milan and on loan with Sevilla. And since his arrival in the Bundesliga from the summer of 2019, he really has become such a prolific goal scorer in the league, of course behind the likes of Robert Lewandowski and Erling Haaland. And since he's had such an amazing season or two in the German league, it's no surprise that Real Madrid have of course got their eye on him. They've got their eye on every player, let's be honest. So what they thought they could do is maybe use Luka Jovic in this transfer. So of course Jovic was with Frankfurt, he then made the move to Real Madrid. Things weren't really working out and he then loaned back to Frankfurt. So Real Madrid thought that they could perhaps use him in a way to get Silva to sign on the dotted line. But it does seem like Frankfurt will not be able to afford the wages of Jovic, so it doesn't seem like this plan will actually work for Real. So what this does mean is that Atletico Madrid have been able to swoop in and begin negotiations. It looks like they'll have to pay about 30 million euros for the player, which is the cost of his release clause. And let's be honest, Real Madrid, as I've said before on dailies, they could really use a new striker. They have of course got Luis Suarez, but he's not getting any younger, he's going to need support. Of course they no longer have Diego Costa, and João Felix has been a little bit rocky, and he has also been rumoured with a move away from the club. I think that this would be a really good move for Silva. It would be great to see him back in La Liga in more of a positive environment that he can do some good, and I think that playing for a team like Atletico Madrid would be a great option for him. But for Real Madrid, this just means that their search for a striker to maybe play alongside Karim Benzema, or to perhaps replace Karim Benzema in the future, does continue. Next up, and if you hadn't heard already, Jose Mourinho has a new club. He has been appointed as Roma's next manager for next season. So the 58-year-old will be taking over from fellow Portuguese manager Paulo Fonseca, who Roma announced on Tuesday would be departing from the club. What this means is that Mourinho will be making a return to Italy, where he had so much success, of course, with Inter Milan. And things have arguably been a little bit rocky for him during his recent time in the Premier League, so perhaps the possibility to recapture some of that Italian magic would be a really great option for him. And while Spurs' old manager is heading to Serie A, it looks like Spurs have reportedly been looking at Serie A to bring in their new manager. Yes, talks have apparently been had, according to the Transfer Window podcast, with Gianpiero Gasperini. He is, of course, Atalanta's manager. It has been reported that Ryan Mason is still being considered for the role, as he's currently filling that spot of interim manager. They do ideally want someone with a little bit more experience, and that is definitely where Gasperini comes in. Now, he may not fit that mould of a young, dynamic coach, which reportedly Spurs have been looking for, but when it comes to success, he definitely does fit the bill, as he's had some really great seasons with Atalanta. They've been finishing back-to-back in third in Serie A, and of course they had a really good run in the Champions League, and currently at the time of filming they are second in Serie A. But he's not the only Serie A manager that they are looking at. They've also allegedly spoken to Fonseca, who has just been sacked with Roma and will be replaced by Mourinho, like I stated. So yeah, it seems like Spurs are on a massive hunt for a manager, a massive hunt in Serie A clearly, and let's hope that they finally find a manager that can get them that coveted piece of silverware. And finally, we have our transfer roundup. This is where I take a look at some of the other news and transfers going on in the footballing world. And first up, UEFA have announced that teams that are competing in this year's Euro 2020/21 competition will have a 26-man squad instead of the normal 23-man squad. 24-year-old Zambian striker Fashion Sakala will be joining Rangers. He has signed a pre-contract agreement and he's hoping that once his work permit is processed, he can make the official move to the club. Over in Germany, Javi Martinez has announced that he will be departing from Bayern Munich after 9 brilliant years at the club. And finally, reports of Memphis Depay making the move to Barcelona have been heightened, as he was reportedly spotted house hunting in the city. So that's everything for today's OneFootball Daily News. As always, check out all the other content that we've got here, and until next time, I will see you all later.